Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to Coupla Books. I know it's been 5 months and counting since my last review, and it wasn't even a review. So all I can really say is I'm sorry guys for letting you down. I haven't been doing my job. I haven't been bringing you some of the great books I've been reading in the past few months. I guess I've just been having a major detox just to clear out amongst other things, and I just wasn't in the mood to share as much. But you know, it's a new year, new me and all. So I'm finally back, and I'm back to sharing some good old books with you. And in the past few weeks, or actually past few months, I've come across some really sick books. So without further ado, let's get it started. And also, I hope you're all well. I know it's been a hard year. It's been an extremely hard 12, 13 months. Well, February was when we think. So I hope that everybody's well mentally, physically, and most of all, that we're all just being patient with ourselves and taking each day as it comes, you know what I mean? Because that's all we can do. Bit of tidbit. Anyway, yeah, so today I'm going to be reviewing East of Acre Lane, and I don't actually have the book with me because I lent it to my brother after lending it to my mum. You know, it's one of those books which you want to lend to everybody because it's so sick, and I really do respect Alex Wheatle for writing a masterpiece. I'm just going to pretend it's there, show you guys it. Yep. East of Acre Lane, I think it was written in, I don't have it on my notes. I think it was in 2005 maybe, but it is a pretty much first-hand inquiry into the Brixton Riots of the 1980s. Now, some of you may know about it. I hadn't really heard much about the Brixton Riots at all, really. I mean, I know it was something which happened, but I don't know many people who were involved in it. So East of Acre Lane was like, it gives you that mirror, kind of that scope. You know what I mean? Think of a sniper. It's like I could look at it from afar and kind of really get a gauge for what happened during the riots and what led up to it. Because of course, things don't just happen. Anyway, without getting into that, let me just give you a quick rundown. So East of Acre Lane, it follows the story of Biscuit. And I know that is a very funny name. There's some other funny names. There's Biscuit. There is Coffin Head, one of Biscuit's mates. There's I can't remember who else there was. But anyway, it follows his life, and he's an 18-year-old just coming out of college, living with his mum and his sister, and he finds himself in a pretty precarious position in that he's the man of the house. His dad has walked out on him, and it's his mum, his sister, and he is depended on to kind of bring money to the table. And one of the many things that Alex Wheatle goes into is, in the 1980s, unemployment rates for teenagers, I think it may have been above 40%, and for black teenagers, you can imagine, exponentially higher. And with that, there was a sense of hopelessness which runs throughout the book. And as a result, you have Biscuit here, who the only means of making or bringing in a stable income was to sell drugs on the line. He sold weed in Brixton, and of course, as a result of selling weed, a lot of kind of situations crop up, which life-changing situations. And of course, I feel like the book provides the reader with a great kind of a different perspective, because I feel like some people, it's really easy to point fingers, especially when you haven't seen what somebody has to deal with and also what commitments and responsibilities they have. And it's easy to say they did this and that, but when you see that Biscuit is putting money in his mum's pocket and he's helping pay the rent, it's kind of like, it's a balancing act. And of course, you should never be the one to be pointing fingers. And I guess moving on, the book is I really enjoyed the fact that culture. Culture is a huge part of the book, and it's so rich, and it was such a rich part of the 1980s culture, and that I guess the Windrush generation was pretty still early on in their inception, and Jamaica was a huge part of the book. I mean, a lot of it is written in patois, and I just came back from Jamaica not too long ago, so this really did stimulate the senses and made me feel that part of me was still there, and that's another reason why I love the book. And also the fashion, like they dressed really up to the nines, whether they were going to a community dance, a house party. House parties were a big thing, but they dressed to the nines. I mean, like, I feel like now we're in a generation where everybody's really casual, and that's all cool, you know what I mean? Because but nobody wants to be seen to be dressing up or forcing it, but they really did, like, bold colors, bold patterns, bold materials. They didn't give a fuck, and I loved it. And it made me kind of just want to get in a teleporter and be transported, like to say, where, I don't know, what, the Umbrella Academy, and just go back to the 80s. And of course, it wasn't all good, as I explained before, but certain aspects, including the house party culture, were just really, really sick to read about, because I felt like I was there, and that's credit to Alex Wheatle for providing me with such a well-rounded and thoughtful piece of info, man, and just book. Like, it was just great. You know what I mean? I can't sing its praises high enough. Oh yes, of course, with house parties, I love music, and if you know me, you know I love music. And this book really did do a great job in stimulating my senses when it comes to music. And that is because I wish I had my notebook. I'm gonna get my notebook, but oh shit, I should probably get the notebook. Yeah, I'll get the notebook. What is it? And no, you know what? You don't need to see it. You can just hear it. So basically, throughout reading the book, you'll be greeted by a number of different artists. Some reggae, some funk, some dub, and literally, I ended up writing down like maybe 2 sides of just new songs, new artists to listen to, and I made a Spotify playlist called East of the Lane, which I'll put in the description. And all of these songs are literally from reading the book East of Acre Lane. And I've never read a book like that. I mean, just the effortless mixture of music with reading. Like, it's always something which I've been looking for. And funny enough, I found it in East of Acre Lane, and I wasn't even looking for it. Was, you know, when they say, like, when you're not looking for things is when they come to you. Very interesting point there. Moving on, I guess, like, reading the book and seeing also police brutality, and of course Biscuit being somebody who had to sell weed to kind of survive. He had his fair share of dealings with police, and I guess being given that first person portrayal of how the police dealt with them in their attitude towards black teenagers and just young black people in general. It was disgusting. And I mean, it's easy to read studies on it and newspaper articles, but when it's in a book and it's so, like, it really does encourage and stimulate your mind's eye. When you're seeing it happen, even though I didn't see it in front of me, I'm reading it, so it felt like that. It's a really sobering tale to read, and I guess it meant that towards the end of the book, it all culminates in the Brixton Riots happening. I mean, this literally happens towards the end of the book, and it was, I mean, it wasn't a thing which just happened out of sheer coincidence. It was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back. There were the ripe levels of high unemployment, police brutality, and just disillusionment and apathy within the black community, which led to shit hitting the fan. And such as, like, in history, we've seen it all happen time and time again. And there's always a multitude of reasons behind it. And this book East of Acre Lane goes into detail about that, while also giving you just such a rich portrayal of different characters in Brixton at the time. Also being from South London, reading about Brixton, which is literally around the corner from me. I've never read a book about it. It's always about just different places except London, except South East London. So that was sick. That was sick. Oh, my nose is itching, man. I might have to edit this out. And you know, to end with, I'm just going to keep it nice and sweet. I guess, you know what? I'm just going to stop it there. I'm just going to stop it there. I would just really recommend, if you get the time, to pick yourself up East of Acre Lane by Alex Wheatle. I really wish I had it with you to show you, because especially if you're a South Londoner, you'll really resonate with it. I mean, there's so many familiar aspects, just from the road names to the music to the culture. And you know, I'll just leave it at that, and I hope you can pick it up, guys, and I hope you've enjoyed it. I will be back for another review within the next 2 weeks. I'm going to try and be a bit more consistent. I will be more consistent, and enjoy reading, enjoy the week. Hopefully the sun comes out soon. I felt like it got our hopes up over the past few days or weeks, and then it's back to cold, shitty old London. It's very cold at the moment, but maybe by the next video it'll be a bit hotter. And anyway, with that, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.